Miami! To mission control, we have liftoff. Phinhub! Phinhub! We talking Dolphin City! Phinhub, Phinhub! Yeah! It's that Dolphin Show! Phinhub!
Welcome to the Phinhub Show, the one NFL podcast you can't leave off your roster. Now here's your host, Joey and Kevin Tejido.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Phinhub, powered by BetUS. If you guys haven't already, make sure to check out BetUS and use code YouTube150 for a 150% bonus on your first deposit. The next two deposits will be for 125% bonuses. So make sure to check out BetUS and use code BetUS today. So we now have a report that the Miami Dolphins have met with at least two players. So it looks like we could be keeping some of our homegrown talent here in Miami. Or at least that would be pretty fun. Who are some of the guys that we've seen that they've talked to?
Damian Martinez. I really like that pick because it gives you a bruiser, but I mean someone that can still move, that's very shifty. And I know we have our guy in
Jalen Wright.
Sorry, I just drew a blank there. I mean, It's been so. I feel like Dolphins talk has been like so minimal that I'm like forgetting the roster all of a sudden. But yeah, we have a guy like Jalen Wright. We just drafted in the third round, or the fourth. It was the fourth round. We traded a third round pick for him, right?
Yeah.
That we want him to be that mold, but he's not that as much as a guy in Damian Martinez. So us looking into him and possibly looking into more of a bruiser type back to maybe complement Achane would be beautiful in my opinion, right? So it looks like the Dolphins are really looking into the mold of being a more physical team.
Okay.
And it's evident within the Senior Bowl week and all that and the guys that they've been able to talk to. And there's a lot of offensive linemen out there that I've seen that are really dominating, getting nasty in there. You know what I'm saying? Like a guy that we love is Jonah Savanea.
Uh-huh.
I think he'll be fantastic. A guy that, Reason is always talking about, but I think he would be a great addition, maybe on the right side for us. Mm-hmm. But going back to the players, him, and then you got another dog in Xavier Repo, which I think would be a fantastic slot receiver.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like a Braxton Berrios on steroids.
Like a juiced up Braxton Berrios,
yeah. And, a thing that would be awesome, believe it or not, because I know he's small in stature, but having a guy like that in the red zone for us would be fantastic because in he was balling in the red zone. Mm-hmm. And Cam Ward's favorite target, this guy's breaking records, receiving records. It's not like we've had some slouches coming out of you know what I'm saying? Andre Johnson, the list goes on. I'm not even going to go into that, but so to have a guy like that on our radar, maybe possibly a third round pick, I think it's exciting news,
Yeah, that's it would be cool to keep some of these guys, in Miami. We've been rooting for them on Saturdays. Now we can root for them on Sundays. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Another guy that was mentioned is the tight end from the Canes too.
Elijah Arroyo. I mean, I don't know if the Dolphins have met with him, but I do know that he was balling. Like, people are talking about him being tight end 3 in the draft, and there's a nice list of tight ends out there, right? Another guy that we met with, aside from that I do know is Mason Taylor.
Okay.
Right? Yeah, but huge in stature, 6'5", another red zone target. Listen, I know we have our guy in Jonnu Smith, but we do need another tight end. So the fact that the Dolphins are looking into that as well, I know there's a lot of guys out there, Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland, Elijah Arroyo, the list goes on. But if we look into him as well, he did say something about the fact that he'd love to stay close to home. I know Jason Taylor, probably is talking up the Dolphins organization to him as well. So let's see, man. The Dolphins are really looking into some nice young talent, and I'm excited to see what they do this coming April in the draft. There's a lot of options out there. This is a pretty deep draft in a sense.
Yeah.
As far as the positions that we like and that we need, tight end, interior offensive line, there's a lot of talent out there. So I think the Dolphins are going to be able to snag a couple studs out there that might be able to be, day one impact players for us, which is, we both know it. There's a bunch of needs out there. And if we can get a guy that can play on the offensive line, defensive line, and maybe a tight end next to Jonnu Smith, I think it's a home run draft already, you know?
Yeah, this draft is an interesting one for me because, oddly enough, I'm in this side or this camp that now is just kind of become a non-believer in the organization. And
it's fair.
I'm not really sure the direction that we're going in. In part, it's because probably one of the guys who I love the most on this team is with Tua Tagovailoa. And I don't mean to harp on this too much because I really do like him as a person, even as a player. I think there's a lot of great things that Tua brings to the table. But what has become more evident throughout the years, and especially this last season, is his durability, the injury concerns, and to really like this person as a person. It's something to watch, and I'm concerned at this point now for his future as a person.
Yeah.
Even as a player. It is what it is at this point. And I think that right now, and the Dolphins, I feel like we're a sinking ship. And I think this draft could become more so about plugging holes in this sinking ship to ultimately come back to the inevitable sunken ship.
Yeah.
And that's the issue that I'm having right now. I don't know the direction that we're taking, and I think that
there's no identity.
There is no identity. Yeah. And when you're going into this draft, picking up a tight end, picking up a running back, picking up a wide receiver, whether they're homegrown talent or not, from Alabama, Arkansas, whatever, it doesn't really matter. And it is cool. I would love some Canes here.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately it comes down to, are you looking for the most important position in the NFL, which is quarterback? And how is it that we are addressing this? Is it going to be the guy that's going to be a really good, solid backup for his career in the NFL? Or is it a guy that can potentially compete, maybe not now, but at some point in the future, compete for that starting bona fide superstar position at quarterback? Maybe he doesn't have it right now, but maybe he's a guy that you could develop now, so that later on he could be that guy to lead the franchise into the promised land, not for just 1 year, but for years to come, having that durability, having that athletic ability, and maybe it's just the intangibles that he needs to work on.
It's hard to know what they're going to do, right? Because we do know that Greer and McDaniel are on the hot seat. They're going to want to put out the best team every Sunday, and unfortunately, you can't do that with high upside second string quarterback, right? Third string, whatever the case may be, a nice young stud that you want to coach up. So as much as I want to think that they're going to pay attention to that, position, it is, the most important position in the NFL on any team, no matter what, right? I don't think they're going to. And I understand what you're saying. It's a ship that's sinking, plugging holes, the inevitable sunken ship if you don't get the right guys in place, right? So I'm just hoping the Dolphins don't reach. I'm hoping they actually look to get the best player available. I understand that player might not help you win certain games this coming year.
Right.
But at the end of the day, the best way to win football games is to have the best talent on the football field, right? And I'm not saying that it has to be done so through the draft, but I think that does show how good of a GM you are, right? And Greer, he's about 50-50 when it comes to drafting, right?
Yeah.
We do know that he hit a home run with Chop Robinson. He did well with, I know some people would chalk it up to it being a failed pick, but Tua, he hasn't been a bad quarterback.
Tua wasn't a bad pick.
And for the people that are going to start saying, oh, but he could have picked Justin Herbert or Jordan Love, coulda, shoulda, woulda, whatever. At the end of the day, Tua was the better draft prospect, and he was the better pick at that time because people can say, oh, I had my sights on Justin Herbert, all that. But what did he do in Oregon? What did he prove?
Not only that, but Justin Herbert hasn't done anything other than have a great rookie season.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, Justin Herbert's been just as banged up as Tua. So I don't want to talk about, but Justin Herbert is more durable. He's stronger.
The
all
optics
that stuff
are just completely different, though. Tua being the 6-foot quarterback, Justin Herbert being, 6'5"?
Yeah,
he's
6'4",
just this big
6'5".
kid. Tua's not a big kid. Tua's injuries look very scary.
Yeah.
Justin Herbert's, he's just walking them off.
Yeah, but
Or
he's
not
still
walking
missing
them off, he's
time.
walking off the field.
Yeah.
Tua's being carted off the field. The
Doesn't-
optics are completely different.
Doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't
But
matter
but
how
they're-
it looks, but missed time is missed time. They're
Right.
both missing time. Joe Burrow's missing time.
Yeah.
And if you ask me, I'd still take Joe Burrow over any of those quarterbacks, right? He actually will probably be the third quarterback that I'd take in the NFL.
Yeah.
And it'd be, behind Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen.
I guess he would, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Lamar, but I think I'd
Lamar.
still take Joe over him. But the whole thing is, at the end of the day, they need to fill certain needs, and I just don't want to see them reach. I don't want them drafting a guard. I want them drafting maybe a high upside left tackle that can play guard, right tackle that can play guard in the first round. So
Yeah, and this is the issue with that too. You're not reaching, right? So now you're plugging these holes. Your team is solid enough to be hanging around just outside the playoffs. And where is the problem with that? Well, you don't get to the playoffs, so you're not going to win a Super Bowl now. But your team's also not so terrible that you're in the lottery, that you're in the draft, the early draft. So you're not competing for one of the top prospect quarterbacks.
you're in purgatory.
Where the Dolphins have been
Yeah.
since Dan Marino. And
Yeah.
this is really the big issue. This is the problem that we're having. The
Yeah.
Dolphins are never the worst team, and we're never the best team. We are always right smack dab in the middle. We are not competing for a top quarterback, which we did when we had Tua. We were tanking for Tua, which ultimately ended up actually being what should have been tank for Joe Burrow year.
And it would have been Joe Burrow.
It
The
would have
pick
been Joe
would have
Burrow,
been Joe
but
Burrow.
we ended up winning, going on a 5-game winning streak with
Yeah.
Ryan Fitzpatrick for no reason.
No, absolutely no reason. I mean, at the end of the day, you don't have a direction for the franchise, right? At that moment, Brian Flores ultimately that led to his demise because if he would have just done what he had to do, and people will talk crap about it, but every team does this. I don't want to sit here and act like this is such a bad thing, right? Tanking is tanking. The only way to be a successful franchise is to get the number one pick and ultimately get the best prospect in the draft every year, right? Because these quarterbacks don't grow on trees. You can't get one in free agency because guess what? The team that they're with is not letting them go. And they're
Right.
going to wave any type of money they want in their face and they'll be like, yeah, I'll stay. I don't care if I win.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, Brian Flores messed that up. He messed it up for the Dolphins. We might have had Joe Burrow in here, but then again, what would that have done either, right?
Well, this is an interesting point to take too, though. You get you put Patrick Mahomes on a team. Obviously, the Chiefs they're well stacked on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
And more so than people actually realize, because at the end of the day, you're just going to say, "Oh, it's Patrick Mahomes," and there is some validity to that because he is Patrick Mahomes, and I'm going to give some truth to that. If Patrick Mahomes had, let's say, on both sides of the ball, they were ranked anywhere between 20 and 32nd, that team still ends up having a chance to win any game.
Yeah.
And that's the reality of the situation. You can do the same with Josh Allen. You can do the same with Lamar Jackson. You can do the same with Joe Burrow. Those quarterbacks elevate those teams in such a way that team always has a chance, despite their both sides of the ball being ranked anywhere between 20 to 32nd. And look, and I'm also going to give it to Tua. I'm going to give Tua his flowers. We've seen what the Miami Dolphins look like with and without Tua, having these terribly ranked teams. Tua makes those rankings much better. We've seen what the rankings look like for the offensive line when Tua's not playing and what they look like when Tua is playing.
That's what makes me so split too.
So-
I'm like,
Okay, so Tua does raise this team to another level, and I am giving that to Tua. I am. A lot of people will say you're an idiot for saying that, but
I'll just disagree with the Joe Burrow thing.
the truth
but
is
I'll
the
get
truth.
into that.
But we've seen, the offense, what they do with Joe Burrow was putting up crazy numbers this season. But that's beside the point.
Yeah, but he's also throwing to like the best. And I'm not going to say that we don't have that, but Jamar Chase
is the best receiver in the NFL.
I didn't see it before. But I was even saying maybe Waddle's just as good, but that guy is the best.
Jamar Chase is on another level right now.
It's another level.
Like,
dude, you see the guy break one tackle, he takes it 50
He's
yards.
great. Now-
He does exactly what people say that Tyreek Hill does every play, but he does that.
Let's go back to Tua, though.
Yeah.
Jamar Chase is great. Going back to Tua does elevate the team in a way that we haven't had in quite a while when it comes to that position. But the issue comes back to the durability.
Yeah.
And his decision making too. Like you have these injury concerns and you continue to put your head first, sliding for something. Like, brother,
I think that's okay, but that is what's leading to this concern now all of a sudden, because it is somewhat a major switch up from us. Because I mean, all last season we were banging the table for Tua. Oh, it's the offensive line, it's this and that. But then when Tua comes back from injury, he's making some bonehead plays. He's running. He's going head first. So how much did you learn from this last experience? Are you going to continue to be an aggressive, reckless player? Because at the end of the day, Josh Allen doing it is one, but then you got Tua that has all these head injuries, and in stature, he's nowhere near that. He can't lower his shoulder and knock someone back. You know, he's going to lower his head, not even his shoulder. Even then, that DeMar Hamlin concussion, he lowered his shoulder, but his head just slightly grazed him, and then, you know, obviously Tua went down for another concussion. He is susceptible to these injuries, but he's not playing as so. He's playing as if he's like, oh, I'm Josh Allen, I'm Lamar Jackson. I could take a hit out 10 yards down the field and not slide and get back up. I mean, he did get back up on a few this last season, but that one really derailed the whole season. And you'd have to think that Greer and company, Greer and McDaniel, anyone, even Stephen Ross, they're not feeling comfortable with Tua at the helm because they don't know if Tua's going to make the right decision, throw the ball away, and, you know, live to play another down. So I think that's where we are at as the concern, you know, moving forward. Because this is my concern too. You make the freaking Great Wall of China in front of Tua. Mm-hmm. No one's getting through you, right? Let's say one guy cracks out and Tua has to, you know, leak out. And then he's like, you know what? I'm going to run for those 10 yards. I see Tua saying, man, I might be able to get another 2 if I lower my shoulder and hit this guy.
And that's the problem.
And I don't want to see it anymore. Because it is a concern, and we don't want to see him go down. You know, we do have love for Tua as a person. I just don't want to see him do that anymore. Now, if Tua decides this year, I'm sliding every time, I'm not getting any unnecessary contact, then maybe there is a future, you know, with him being a healthy quarterback, being the franchise quarterback for the Dolphins. But as of right now, I don't like the decisions he's been making. So,
I would agree. If you guys haven't already, make sure to check out BetUS and use code YouTube150 for 150% bonus on your first deposit. The next 2 deposits will be for 125% bonuses. So make sure to check out BetUS and use code YouTube150 on BetUS today. But that's going to do it for today, guys. Make sure to give this video a like, subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next one. Fins up.